Jonathan Hopp. This is SundayGoLessons.com. We're going to talk about essential shapes today. What do I mean by essential shapes? Essential shapes are shapes that are going to come up pretty often in your games. All right, I can't predict everything that's going to come up in your games, but these shapes are really good to know. They're going to come up. All right, so we're going to deal with the three-linked star. It's called sanrensei in Japanese, and white approaches here, and then black places one space tensor. All right, so there's a lot of different things we can do. All right, and we're going to talk mainly about white's invasion into the corner. All right, so what happens when our opponent pinches us? Well, we either run out or we sacrifice the stone and go into the corner. All right, so in this case, white's electing to go into the corner because it's open. So now we have to think to ourselves, how is black going to respond? All right, black has to think about all of his stones. Remember, in Go, if you play a move that has all of your stones working together in concert, then basically all your stones are gain points. You can think of each stone as having a job. If another stone helps a stone already on the board do their job, then you're basically raising the value of every single stone on the board, and that's a really good thing. All right, it's called for some efficiency in Go. All right, if you get to be a stronger player, you get to really appreciate this. So we want to make sure all our stones are efficient. So when we deal with this stone, we basically have two options. All right, we're not going to ignore it. So if we ignore it, then white starts to take away liberties from our stone, and now where we were strong, now white's attacking us. That's not good. So we have basically two options. We could block from this direction, or we could block from this direction. This direction has the bonus of splitting white up, whereas this direction blocks this way, and white can still link up. So we have to think to ourselves, which is more important? Well, let's compare. All right, let's compare the two. So let's say black blocks from this direction. Okay, if white white's not really necessarily able to connect to a stone on the outside, but white has to fix his liberty problem. Okay, this white stone here only has 3 liberties. Now we have to add more liberties to it to help it. All right. Next, black will extend. All right. Do not play this. I go over this in my my standard sequences lectures, but do avoid this move because white will play this. All right, and they have this cut. And this cut's very bad for black, so don't play this move. It's a common Q-level mistake. All right, so forget this move even exists. Play this. All right, you can play this move, and now your stones have lots of liberties. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 liberties. Okay, so now white will try to come under. Black will be forced to block. He does not want these 2 white stones to connect. White jumps, and now we've essentially ended the standard sequence. Now, here is the basic problem. All right, white has this low group, he has territory, but now it's almost impossible to really keep white from marching forward along this line. Sure, we have the wall this way, but what about this stone and this stone? So for instance, if black keeps walking right along with white's going to keep walking along with him. There's no reason that white should stop, and white's making pretty good points at every step he makes. So if you play like this, white can even slide or even go further. Like that, he can play like this, most likely, or he can slide like this. All right, let's say he plays like this. All right, so we've made this wall. And if this side is important, and extending along this side is important, then this is a decent result for black. But the problem is basically we're pushing white, and white's making a lot of territory here. This group is definitely alive, is making a lot of territory, and now I'm starting to question why this move is even here. All right, if the board looks like if this move is over here, then that makes much more sense. Black makes this really great right side territorial framework, but if it's here, I'm starting to question it because these stones are all undercut by white. White's taking a little territory underneath them. If you don't have anything this way, then this actually would be really terrible from black's perspective. I had a bunch of high stones, and white was able to dig out all the territory underneath them, and then I got a wall that didn't do much. Now I've got a good idea. So let's go back a second. We go all the way back to white's 3-3 invasion. We see that basically, if we block like this, it means that we think that this side is important. Let's say the board is just like this. I don't think that this side is important really at all. I'm not really willing to sacrifice the efficiency or the job of this stone and this stone. I already have invested 2 stones here. That's a lot in Go terms, okay? 2 stones could be a lot. So what if I block this way? All right, this way may seem slack to some people, right? We're not cutting the 2 white stones apart. We're going to pretty much let them link up together. Well, that happens in Go. There's no reason to be completely brutal all the time. So white plays here and slides under, right? Now this is one of those things that I know a lot of Q players make the mistake of. If you see this kind of shape, you have 2 stones, two chain stones next to one another, and one 2-chain stone pair has a jump ahead of it. You really want to move, because otherwise your opponent will get a move like this, okay? These are pushing battles, and these 2 stones are pushing up against each other. They're in a race. If one of these stones is already ahead, they're going to get ahead of you. They're going to run in front of you and cap you off. So for instance, white will play like this. If black plays here, right? White is bending black, and white's shape is actually really good, all right? Because black cannot play any of these points because they're not really cutting points, right? So black's shape is really horrible, actually. He's losing liberties pretty fast. So actually, it's very important that we play here, okay? Because this is a weakness for white, all right? We don't want black pushing through, and then we have 2 cutting points. It's really terrible, all right? So what white will do is white will play like this, all right? White will protect this cutting point, and he'll also leave himself the opportunity to attach here later, in case he ever wants to, okay? So in this case, black says, okay, well, I pushed, white defended himself, now I'm going to link up all my stones on the outside. Well, let's look at this now. What's the job of this black stone? Well, the job of this black stone is to radiate influence out this towards the center, all right, and to try to turn this side into hopefully the points later in the game, all right? So these stones are all helping this stone do that job, create a territorial framework along the top. These 2 stones, the job that they already were on the board for, is accentuated by the fact that we have a wall here, okay? So now these stones work even harder than they did before. That's the beauty of having the correct directions, making sure your stones work the way that they're supposed to, and that they don't lose efficacy without a good reason. All right, so there's a couple things here that some people get a little bit confused on. That's fine, just go. So black plays here, white comes under, black plays here, and then sometimes people play this really tricky move. They come under, all right? So some people get really flustered when they see this. They know the other sequence by heart. And then our opponent played something that we didn't really expect, and now we have no idea what to do. Don't get flustered. Just because he played under doesn't really mean anything, all right? He gained an extra 2 points of territory. He's playing really safe. Okay, great. Keep moving. This is Sente. If black pushes through here and white defends, this is one of those awful second line shapes. I have an Atari here, and then so I either lose this stone or I lose this stone. So we don't want that. So white must defend. Oops, this is black stone. I put it to white stone. Must defend. Now some people think, well, oh my God, what happens if he plays this? All right, that's one of those tricky second line endgame moves. At least when endgame tragedy, I don't want that to happen, because I can't block him. If he plays like I play like this, I can't cut those 2 stones off. And you'd be correct, you can't cut the 2 stones off, and white can play that. But the idea here is that you're playing these stones on the outside to build something really big towards the center. The points here overall for the moment in the beginning of the game don't matter all that much, okay, in the grand scheme of things. You're trying to build your ambition is much bigger than just the few amount of points here. Besides, if he plays in here, you can pretty much stop his advance at a certain point. So don't be too freaked out by this move. Just remember that you're supposed to keep pushing forward so that you can do what you were originally planning to do. You have a high stone here and a high stone here. Let your stones work together. All right, so let's take a look at this board, all right? So white has just invaded the 3-3 point over here, all right? So what we had before was black had this pretty nice territorial framework going on. We have 2 high stones with the crux of his framework being this high stone. So it looks like we're doing pretty good. So white didn't really feel like playing a move like this or trying to just make a simple extension like this. White said to himself, hey, this 3-3 point's pretty big. It's worth a lot of territory if black takes it. If black plays a move like this, It's going to be very difficult to deal with this whole area. So what white decided to do was take that point for himself. I have no problem with that. That's a very good move, all right? It's actually very urgent that we do this. So which way should black block, okay? There's two options, just like we did before. Should black block like this, or should black block like this? Okay? It's very important that we choose the right answer. I'll let you think about it for a second. Pause the video and give it some thought. Which way should black block? All right, so the correct answer is to block like so, all right? So if we block like this, basically what we're saying is the top side is important. Well, this stone only goes up to here, and white has a strong position here, so your development along this side is not going to be so great. And what's going to happen to these stones? White extends. We can play this standard sequence that we know. It's a very simple one. We don't have to get too complicated. I know it goes a complicated game. We can, play the simple moves that we want, like extends. Okay, I think this is one most people know by now. Don't forget this move. This is very important. And now we have to look at black's thickness. Black's very thick, right? We have a nice thick wall. But which way is it facing? It's facing this direction. It's facing the direction where we're not going to really develop as much. More to the point, though. The idea is that this area is lost its efficacy. This area is open. White can come into this area. If this area does not turn into territory, what the heck are these two stones doing here? Why don't I move this one over here and move this one over here? We're going to have the top. If our emphasis is going to be the top side, let's do the top side. Why are we going to have these two stones on this side and they don't surround territory and they're not really essentially going in the direction that the rest of our stones are going? So we have some of the crowd going this way and some of the crowd going that way, and no one knows which way they're actually going. We don't want that to go. We don't want to play moves, invest this many stones, and have the result be that two of our important stones lose their efficacy, lose their efficiency. This is not a good result for black. Okay, I want you to really appreciate that. So we have to go back and we have to block the correct direction. Very important that we do that. So instead of this way, right here, we're going to block like this. Now you should really appreciate how this area that once was destroyed is now under black control. So white crawls. Right, and we're going to do the same thing we just did. We're just going to do it in the opposite direction, and we're going to try to see if that really makes a difference. It should, right? So we already see how this wall is compared to the other wall. It's the exact same shape, but because it's facing a different direction, it's working differently with the stones we already have on the board. All right, so we come here. Now it's clear what these two stones are doing. This stone is grabbing this area. This stone is protecting this area. We're coming into the center in this direction. All the stones are facing in the same direction. The crowd's moving together. All right, instead of in every which direction like a chaotic herd. All right, so that's why we want to play like this. So we have all our stones working in unison. Now, what's important here is that our opponent does not necessarily have to play the way that we think they're going to play. All right, if we go back. Sure, black could extend here, but what happens if black plays this double hane? This is a move that comes up a lot in double-digit Q games. You're going to see this a lot more now as you're a single-digit Q player and learning more of these shapes. Okay, so this move is important. What does this white do? We're not going to play this, right? That's terrible. May as well just go home. Just stop. Just put your go board down. That's very meek. All right, we don't want to just do what our opponent says for us to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out, will black get a good result from this in the first place? Is black going to be able to reap the rewards of his very, very aggressive of maneuver here? All right, so if white Ataris, black connects. And now we have this stone here, which is ripe for the picking. We kill this stone off. Black counter Ataris. This stone is an Atari, and this stone is an Atari. All right, and then next white will play this. Now, what's up with this stone? This stone used to be helping us come to the center and being our influence in this general area. But now what's happened? It's sandwiched in between two thick white positions. Okay, this stone has been punched in the teeth, okay? This stone is on the floor of the bar, and someone just threw a stool at it and knocked it over the head. This is really a terrible position for this stone. It's doing nothing now. Even worse, if white gets to play something like this, then black will have to respond, which means black stones are pushed further and further back to the right. If black does nothing, white will will extend, and now we have a horrible situation. If black plays like this, then obviously these two stones are going to die. White will turn. Black has 1, 2 liberties. White has 1, 2, 3 liberties. Black is dead. So therefore, we can't play like this. We have to play like this if we're going to have a chance to survive. Now white's going to turn. What's black going to do? Play this empty triangle? That's terrible. If white wants to sacrifice his stones, white can play like this. Black will turn. Oops, black stone there. Black will turn, and then white can completely and utterly cut off his stones from the outside. It's terrible. If white wants to fight, he'll just continue to crawl, gain more liberties than these stones, and kill these stones off. So that's a really awful result for black. So we don't really want white getting something like this. We don't want white getting this point. So we're not going to give up this stone. So let's go back. To this point, all right? So what we can do is that when white plays this, as black, we of course are going to play this, but when white plays this Atari, we're not going to follow him. We're just going to play like this. Okay, we're going to continue. This is much more attractive for black as far as developing this side. All right, if white takes, black plays here. Atari, do not play something like this or this. Atari, just Atari him. You're not afraid of this. You're going to take this stone, and this co-fight's better for you than it is for him. Atari. White plays here, which he should, then black hits Sente. To play a move like this, okay? So that's the main point of this sequence. Black gets Sente. It ends on black's turn. All right? This is not so great for white. Black pretty much got what he wanted out of things. All right, so let's go back. So remember, you can always play here. All right? You don't have to counter Atari. You can push forward ahead, and then you can still get the area you wanted to get in the first place. So we go back here. It's not as if white's without options, okay? So we saw a sequence that black played that was pretty good for him. White's not without options, though. White can play this move, in which case he threatens to come out here. So if black blocks, white has this very awesome move of this cut. All right, this cut is very, very interesting. Black cannot just take the stone. A lot of your opponents may be like, what the heck is this cutting move? You have 1, 2 cutting points. I'm just going to cut you if something good should happen. Well, you should remind your opponent that he also has 2 cutting points. So it's not like you and here are all that different in terms of weakness. If black captures this white stone, you can just say, thank you. I will now double Atari you. I'll take this, you take that stone, I'll take this stone, all right? And it looks like white has destroyed this stone yet again. So let me show you what it looks like. Black takes here, white takes here. This stone is sandwiched in between a thick white group and another thick white group. So we're pretty much back where we started with in terms of black's position being pretty bad. All right, so we're going to go back to here. Okay, so black can't just take this stone. Black has to pull back. Black has to protect his weakness. Now, if I were white, all you have to do is capture the stone. And you're thinking, hey, there's a counter Atari, Jonathan. Yes, there is. White takes, black extends. These stones are dead. But you have this nice flower shape on the outside. It's perfectly reasonable to break up black's territory. Now black's area, these 2 stones, which we're trying to use those stones to make a territorial framework. Now those stones are actually thin and maybe even under attack. We go back to where we were, here. Black, of course, plays this. Now, as white, if you don't want to play that, then you're going to have to do something like this, okay? So black may not play like this. Black may play like this. Okay, what happens if black plays like this, all right? As white, you could pull back, all right, in which case black might take, or he might just defend his liberties like this, and you may try to run out. Right? We'll go over this sequence in a later lecture. It's very, very advanced, but just keep it in mind if this ever happens to you in a real game.